We are thrilled today because it seemed appropriate on Veterans Day to offer an opportunity to meet up with a special guest, and we've been able to do that. Colonel Kier Knapp is here, Vice Commander with the 110th Attack Wing in Battle Creek. Colonel, good morning to you.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to meet you today. You know, here's a couple of historical nuggets. If maybe you life has zoomed by and you weren't aware of these things, the 110th Attack Wing dates back to World War II, becoming home station for the 172nd Fighter Squadron in 1947 at what was then Kellogg Field in Battle Creek. Fast forward to 2009, the 110th transitioned from the A-10 aircraft to the C-21. And also in 2009 came the creation of the 217th Air Operations Group in place today in Battle Creek. You know, Colonel, I presume that there are folks who make their life in Battle Creek or nearby, and they go by the base on a daily basis, and they say, boy, that's kind of interesting in there. I have no idea what happens in there. Talk to us about what's going on insofar as you can here in our midst.
Okay, great. It was a few short years ago, 2009, as you alluded to. Probably a lot of Battle Creek folks knew we were here because the A-10s or the C-21s were flying over the top of the airport every day, making a lot of noise, that kind of thing. Well, we no longer have airplanes, but our mission is going strong, so it would be pretty easy for people to drive by and not realize what's going on inside. But we're super excited about the future of the base, the future of the 110th Attack Wing. We have some missions now that are young and moving forward and are showing a lot of promise for decades to come here in Battle Creek. First of all, we have our MQ-9 Reaper mission, and that is flying airplanes somewhere around the world, and we control them here from Battle Creek through a whole lot of technology. So those airplanes might be over Iraq or Afghanistan or wherever in the world they're needed, and we fly them from right here. So our crews, our pilots, our sensor operators fly them from right here in Battle Creek.
That's incredible.
It is incredible. Technology just in the last few years it's amazing. You used to have people in those airplanes. I used to be one of those that flew the A-10, and now we can sit in a room not unlike this, and through technology and satellites and communication links, fly airplanes 8,000 miles away.
This is a huge advancement, I'm sure in many ways, but especially in terms of safety.
Absolutely. You know, it used to be when we would deploy our A-10s to the Middle East to fly combat sorties, we would deploy 500 and something people into harm's way, whether it was into Iraq or Kuwait or Afghanistan or whatever. And that cost a lot of money. It was a huge logistics trail. You have to feed all those people and dunk all those people wherever they are. Now it's a much, much smaller footprint downrange. Everything stays here. The pilots are here, the sensors are here, all the communication folks, the intel folks are all right here in Battle Creek. Now, there's still a pretty good footprint, in various places around the world to make sure the communication nodes are active and ready to go, but they're not in harm's way.
Do the pilots get a little bummed that they're not flying a plane?
Oh, undoubtedly, and I'm one of those as well.
Right.
You don't get to fly upside down and pull G's and that kind of stuff. But it's the wave of the future. My son, in fact, is about to go into the Air Force, and his assignment is the MQ-9, and he's very excited about flying this because it's where things are going to be for the next decades and centuries.
It's Veterans Day. We're talking today with Colonel Kier Knapp, who is the Vice Commander at the 110th Attack Wing on WBCK. Veterans Day Friday, we're here with Colonel Kier Knapp, Vice Commander of the 110th Attack Wing here in Battle Creek. Let's talk about how the 110th and others like it fit into the overall umbrella of the Air Force.
Okay, great. The Air Force is really made up of three components: the active duty Air Force, the Air Reserves, and the Air National Guard, which we are part of. The Air National Guard, there's 90 wings across the United States and territories, Washington, D.C., and we are one of those 90 wings. every one of those wings has a different mission. They might fly C-130s or do cyber or fly various different airplanes. So we're just one portion of what we call the total force.
Okay. The MQ-9 component, there was a ribbon cutting recently that really helped debut that, wasn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. Just a couple of short months ago, we had the ribbon cutting for our new building, about a $5.5 million renovation to one of our previous buildings on base. And mostly what it was is bringing a tremendous amount of communications equipment into the building. That's where the cockpit for the airplane physically is located, what we call the cockpit. It's called the GCS, or Ground Component Station, but it's essentially the cockpit of the airplane because there isn't a cockpit in the actual aircraft. So that's where the pilot sits, the sensor operator sits, and it looks just like the cockpit of an airplane, but it's sitting in a room just like this.
Wow. That's completely incredible that is possible. And I imagine that there are folks out there who have a impression that that's like a video game or something.
Right. Well, in I guess the grand sense, it is like a video game. You have a joystick and you have throttles and that kind of thing. But there's a lot more to it, as you can well imagine. We have intelligence folks, we have sensor operators, dozens of screens around us. It is flying, no kidding, an airplane. So you have all your gauges of what your speeds are and that kind of thing. You have cameras on the airplane, so you're looking at video monitors. It happens to be that what the camera's looking at might be 8,000 miles away.
Right.
And there is a delay as you're flying it. It takes about 2.5, 3 seconds for the signal to go from our building all the way around the world to the actual airplane. So, it's a very high-tech video game, if you want to call it that.
But 2.5 to 3 second delay, that's pretty good for the distance you're covering.
Yeah, absolutely. The signal goes literally under the Atlantic Ocean through fiber optic cables up to a satellite uplink station and bounces off a satellite and then down to the airplane. You're flying the airplane almost real time. The hard part is that you're not physically in it to feel it, so everything's done through cameras.
Well, and that was part of what I was going to ask. Is it like a simulator, so it moves? It does not. Then.
It does not move. Nope. You're sitting in a regular chair. This kind of airplane, you don't bank up and roll upside down like you do an A-10. It's pretty sensitive to that. It can fly upwards of 20 hours, so the wings are very long, it's intended to be able to fly for a long, long time, what we call persistence over a target area or over an area that we're looking at, and be able to stay there. And that's one of the neat advantages. If you had a pilot or a crew in the airplane, you're going to run out of gas. The pilots can only sit there so long before they have to go back and land. Where this airplane, we can change out crew members sitting in the seat, but the airplane stays airborne. So every 3 hours or so, we will put a new crew in to keep them fresh and on top of what's going on. Whereas the airplane just stays airborne the whole time. It's an incredible ability.
Well, I guess if you think about it, a commercial aircraft, a pilot can get up and walk around, sit back down. Why couldn't this be the similar case? And probably easier. Yeah,
and probably easier. So if you fly a 757 across the ocean, they carry multiple crew members with them, reserve crews that'll, kind of cycle in and out of the seat up front in the airliner. Well, same thing here. If you were flying a sortie 10 hours long in an A-10 that you're strapped to an ejection seat, that gets very uncomfortable after a while. And this just relieves the pilot and crew from that.
Lots of innovations. And we're going to hear about more, in fact, when we come back in just a minute with Colonel Kier Knapp of the 110th Attack Wing in Battle Creek. Colonel Kier Knapp is here, Vice Commander of the 110th Attack Wing in Battle Creek. There are other things that you've been touting and working on here in Battle Creek, too, like a cyber defense squadron. What is that about, Colonel?
Well, we just got this. The Air Force just gave this new capability to us. We're standing it up. It'll take about a year to stand up. And what it is, it's a cyber defense squadron. Cyber is the buzzword. Pretty much anywhere you go, everything we do is dependent on computers and software programs, et cetera. Well, you have to defend that. You have to make sure that, as we hear all different hacking organizations from, different places around the world, you have to be able to defend your computer networks. So we were just given a 75-person or so cyber defense squadron, and now we'll be recruiting to that young, smart, talented folks, getting them off to training, and then coming back and then be able to defend the Air Force cyber or computer networks.
Well, I think most of us can relate to that. We have to make sure our Norton is up to date. This is times a million.
Times a million, yeah, exactly right. The days of, flying airplanes somewhere else and defending them with security forces on the ground is still there, but now we need to be able to defend our networks, and that includes not just military networks, but all large companies have cyber defense entities to them to make sure that their say a bank, make sure that their banking networks are safe from intrusion, that kind of thing. So it's kind of cutting edge. It's brand new for us for sure, but relatively new for the military, and it's an exciting opportunity for us.
We mentioned at the beginning of the segment that the 217th Air Operations Group was created in 2009. That's been a few years now, but just the name of that gives the impression that this is broader operations than what we've been talking about. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely. They're a command and control organization, have about a little over 200 folks in that, and they are attached to the forces over in Europe and Africa. So anytime you have a warfighting organization, you have to be able to command and control that, and that's what our folks do. They're the reach back, if you will, to that organization back here. So we have folks trained in a variety of different jobs, so that they can support the command and control and the war fighters downrange, either in Europe or in Africa.
So this is the way these things are done now, not just flying planes from a distance, but the operations can be from a distance.
Yeah, absolutely. With technology now, you don't have to have that force right up front, because that's, it has to be protected, it has to be fed, has to be, bunked, all those kinds of things. Well, if you leave them back here now and are able just to do that same communication through satellites or fiber optic cable, why not keep it here where people are safe and it's just easier to support them.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of support, every mission, I presume, has a whole host of folks that make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a tremendous organization on base called the Mission Support Group. There's 5 different squadrons there, and their job is to support everything else that goes out on base. So they have civil engineers that take care of all of our buildings. They have security forces that keep us all safe, if you will. A force support squadron that makes sure we have orders and, awards and decorations and all that kind of stuff. So their true mission is called Agile Combat Support, and we could not do anything without those great men and women that support us on a daily basis. They don't often get all the rewards and the accolades, and they're not flying airplanes and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But they do just a tremendous job, kind of quiet sometimes in the background, making sure that the mission can move forward.
Mm-hmm. So with regard to those groups of personnel, are those active duty folks or are they reservists? How does this work?
Okay, yeah, it gets pretty complicated for most folks. We are all National Guardsmen, so we have 2 roles. We have a federal role that we support the president, quite frankly, on any missions that the active duty asks us to do. But we also have a state role, and in that role we work for the governor. And so I'm sure most of the listeners out there know, when a governor calls out the National Guard for a flood or a tornado to support that, well, we have that capability as well. Just recently here in Michigan for the Flint water crisis,
mm-hmm.
both Army and Air National Guard was called in to help with logistics, help get water passed out, those kinds of things. So we really answer to 2 bosses. It just kind of depends on what's going on at any given time. So in that, we have about 850, 900 people on base. About 250 of us are full-time. And our job is to just kind of keep things running. We organize, train, and equip our drill status guardsmen. And drill status guardsmen are everywhere out there in the community. They're teachers and firefighters, and they have regular, 9 to 5 jobs, and they come to us, 1 weekend a month on what we call a drill weekend. And they're out in the community. You probably work with many of them, and it's a great organization.
What is the distance from which many of those folks come? Is there a radius?
Yeah, you'll be amazed by this. The vast majority come from here in Battle Creek and Kalamazoo County and the surrounding counties. But we have folks that come from California from all around the country that fly in. We have a wide variety of skill sets, especially in our air operations group. And we bring them in from all over the country as needed in order to get the mission done.
Okay. We're running out of time, but I want to ask you this before you go. A missile defense system that has been discussed for Battle Creek. Does the 110th fit into that somehow?
Only in a minor role. The missile defense is mostly out at Fort Custer. If we do in fact get that, if Congress decides to fund that, it's a tremendous capability to defend the eastern half of the United States from rogue nations that might be launching missiles at us. Here at the base, because of our 10,000-foot runway, one of the longest runways in the state of Michigan, that'll probably be used to fly in various components of the system, maybe some assembly that might go on base before it's moved over into the Fort Custer area.
Okay, so there is a connection.
There is a small connection, absolutely.
Well, Veterans Day greetings and appreciation to you and everyone there at the 110th. Send our regards, if you would.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the time.
Appreciate the time you've given us. Colonel Kier Knapp is the Vice Commander at the 110th in Battle Creek.